Have you ever wondered how you could connect HighLevel to XYZ? HighLevel is actually incredibly flexible, super robust, but that can be a little bit confusing. And so in this video, I want to simplify the steps that it takes to connect HighLevel to whatever external system that you want to use and to make it as easy and simple as possible to get this done in the next half an hour or so. So we're going to be hopping into my screen, and the main way that you can do this is with workflows. So workflows are in the automation area inside of a HighLevel sub account. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a workflow. I'm just going to do it from scratch. And the point of workflows, or how I understand workflows, is there's triggers and there's actions. There's something that starts the automation, and then there's the series of steps that are included inside of the automation there. And so when you're considering how do I connect HighLevel to some external system, I got to know who is the sender and who is the receiver. I'll run through both scenarios here. And so if HighLevel is the sender, meaning the action, the trigger that occurs that starts off this engagement is inside of HighLevel, you're going to want to have a trigger. Fundamentally, triggers are optional inside of workflows. You don't have to have a trigger, but if it's HighLevel that's starting this, automation off, then yeah, you need the trigger, like what's happening here. And so a good example might be a form submitted. Right, someone might be submitting that form. You're going to definitely want to use filters where you can filter to a specific form here. So in my hypothetical example here, we'll say that someone is submitting the birthday club form. So they've submitted the birthday club. The other cool thing is they pre-fill these values, but if you want, you can rename any of these. So I'll say birthday club form, and we'll save that. That is now the trigger. Now the action is, well, what action do we want to take? And the lowest cost, I don't want to say the most flexible, but just easy, straightforward thing to use is called a webhook. And you see there's two here. There's webhook and custom webhook. Custom webhook offers you a lot more flexibility in terms of certain things you can do with it. However, it does have a fraction of a penny cost every time that it runs. A webhook is totally free, and your options are post and get. And so a way that I understand webhooks is I think of it like a game of catch, right? You've got a ball and you've got two mitts, and they're sending this ball back and forth. You're throwing it, catching it, throwing it, catching it. And so that's sort of how a webhook works, but it's a packet of information. So inside of our baseball that we're playing catch with, there's all sorts of data, right? Could be the email, could be the phone number, could be contact data, could be, the details of this form submission, whatever it is contained in that baseball. And we've got a thrower and we got a receiver. And that's kind of what this language talks to about the post and get. Now, from our perspective, get is actually going out and fetching it. So it's like, no one's throwing it to me. I'm going to walk over to you. I'm going to grab the baseball out of your hand. I'm going to bring it back to my side. Post is what I would want to use if I'm sending information out. And there's actually more methods when it comes to webhooks, but for HighLevel's free webhook action here, post and get is what we have. And that's still a lot and very usable. Then you have the URL. So if there's any system that allows for webhooks, or it's designed to talk, to have a conversation, it'll allow you to generate this URL as a placeholder just so I can save it. I'm going to go ahead and just type in Google. But then I'm going to open up one of my favorite kind of like third-party apps to bridge the gap here for truly anything. And I'll talk you through that. This is our simple automation: is birthday club submitted, and then this webhook, which I would probably rename to like send to whatever it is. XYZ, sending this information to XYZ. That's all they actually need, right? This is our, birthday club, and we might be like send postcard. Let's use that as an example, right? I want to send it to my postcard writing service or whatever it might be over there. I'm going to go to a common kind of like middleware solution that connects, all sorts of applications together, and it is called Zapier. And so Zapier is just that. It's this bridge, and it has an action of webhooks. This is part of the premium actions here, but see, you could do this inside of any other of these sort of like bridge tools. You could also do this inside of the application that you're going to, for example. So if they have webhooks, they'll generate the URL themselves. But for example purposes here, I'm going to show you how you can do it in Zapier, and maybe this is a totally sufficient way to do it. And so we're going to do our catch hook. So I mentioned the throwing and catching here. So like it's going to post from HighLevel, and then over here, my catch webhook is a literal URL that I can copy, and I'm going to go back into that action, and I'm going to paste this in. And so this is a unique URL inside of Zapier, and like I said, this can happen in other tools as well. And so what's happening now is this form is submitted and it's sending all the details about the contact into Zapier over here. And then we can continue to like bridge other applications. As a note, if you are using Zapier, one cool thing that I do with the naming convention is I will put the last piece of the webhook URL in the name of the workflow. This is a cool tip just to organize stuff. So if you're trying to find it or search it, you can always search by that URL. And then you also know if it's running over here, I'll add that name in the Zap name as well. So just to create consistency when you're looking up automations or trying to troubleshoot in the future, that's one little tip that I typically do that it tends to be helpful. So now in Zapier, I am, as you're doing this and you're actually building this out in real time, if you're using a different webhook direct in a system there, that's all you need to do. This is really, the automation is complete. It's fine. But if you're using Zapier and you can run sort of like test contacts through this, doesn't really matter what the details are. You have to have it turned on. You have to have it published, saved, and then you can run a test. And so what that's going to do now is send information through to our trigger, and we have a real record we can kind of continue working on. And now we have, what do we want to do with it? So if you're like, I want to connect with Notion, or, I want to do something in Gmail or Google Docs, or, so many other tools, you have a lot of possibility here. And so let's see what we've got for postcards. I was wondering if there's like a postcard automation. Here's Postcard Mania. Here's a click send letters and postcards. Here's a print one postcards. Yeah. So, and there's probably even more. These are just the ones that showed up when I searched for postcards. So if I wanted to send a postcard, I'm sure all of these have costs associated with them. You could see I could now integrate with click send letters and postcards, and I could send that postcard. And I would need to actually create an account here. But that's how I could create this connection between an action happening in HighLevel, where they join the birthday club, and now I send them a postcard that says, welcome to the birthday club. Conversely, or alternatively, instead of them submitting the birthday club, maybe the action that I want to run is actually a birthday, and it's a reminder, right? Which is going to happen. You can set like before number of days. So if you have their birthday, you're saying, hey, 7 days before their birthday, this will just run every time for all your contacts where there is a birthday. Delete that first action. 7 days before their birthday, it's going to send, and in this case, we'll be like, birthday card. And there you go. Same thing sort of happening, right? 7 days before the birthday, they're going to enter this automation. It's going to send over there to a birthday card. And I could do that on Zapier. I could do that on Make. I could do that on N8N. Any sort of automation connector tool, you can run this process where there's already integrations built in there. And so the last piece that I want to say about this, though, is that HighLevel has a ton of integrations built in. There are amazingly talented developers that are creating this all the time. And so I'm going to see, what we have here in terms of, if I search postcard. So there's send out cards. There's, I don't know why it kind of shifted over there. I don't actually know, search cards, see what we got. So there are native integrations already part of HighLevel. So similar to an ecosystem like Zapier, where it's like, I'm already starting to get these things in here. Man, I saw it for a second, and the search kind of hid it from me. So if you have a preferred sender, well, this is just the example of cards, but if obviously you have something you're trying to work with, you could install one of these apps. Similar to the premium workflow, they're going to have a price per execution there. But if you're trying, that just becomes a cost consideration, right? Is it worth the $25 or $50 for a Zapier account? Or is it worth the penny per execution to use, a premium action like this? And then, of course, inside of HighLevel, you have bundles that you can buy in terms of automation bundles there. So, at some threshold, if you're sending out tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, then maybe it's cheaper to use an external tool and, some other account there. But if you're just doing one-offs, you got, tens of leads a year, sometimes the direct connection integration is actually the more cost-effective route to go. But there is an understanding of workflows, which in my opinion is the easiest, most straightforward way to create an integration or a connection from HighLevel to whatever you want it to be, is just, something like a Make, a Pabbly, a Zapier account, a Catch webhook, an understanding of webhooks there, and a simple two-step or one action, one trigger workflow inside of HighLevel. I hope you enjoy this. If you're learning more about HighLevel, I actually have a full series going through AI and all the AI features that I've got there. I'm going to link to that over here. Hopefully you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the next video.